Hello, my name is Matthias and welcome to the FPL Scope and my team selection video for Game Week 30. And usually I do a recap of the previous Game Week, Game Week 29, but I've done that already a couple times and I'm kind of sick of Game Week 29 at this point because I only scored 16 points, didn't have a single return from any of my outfield players, and it was pretty much just a pretty bad Game Week in general. I didn't get into the top 10k as I expected to do, and yeah, pretty much everything went wrong in this Game Week, but still, my free hit team actually outscored my usual team because I only had, I think, Areola, Son, and Watkins for my regular team without a free hit. So in that sense, I did earn some points. I did sort of waste a free hit because of that. But at the same time, the thought of me having a free hit in 29 gave me enough reasons to bring in several players before Game Week 29 that I've really liked so far in FPL. Aït-Nouri, for example, scored me 22 points over 2 game weeks. I've been able to get Palmer back into the team. He's been amazing. So there have been so many good performing players for my team, and I'm pretty well set up for the future, as I've shown in a previous video. But yeah, that's pretty much it for free hit Game Week 29. Not the best 29 score, but at the same time, not too unhappy about my tactic, especially seeing how the FA Cup matches unfolded and how we got the schedule set up for Game Week 34 and Game Week 37 specifically, which was looking pretty tough before the Game Week 29 started, but now it's looking pretty easy to navigate and still having 10 or 11 double game week players for Game Week 34 as well without the free hit. So yeah, pretty happy all around with everything going on in FPL, but this past game week, not the best. But let's move on to someone that had a better game week, the best scoring manager in the FPL Scope Mini League this past game week. And again, it's not going to be a huge score because there's only one player actually returning in this team. And that is, luckily for Sita Sinun, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Luckily for him, or her, I'm not sure if that's a female or male name, but luckily for them, they scored 42 points due to Rodrigo Muniz as their captain, scoring 13 points times 2, which is 26 points. Massive score from the one player. Apart from that, the rest of the team is just filled with a lot of players that people sort of neglected on their free hits. And it didn't really work out either, because Areola got 3 points, Cash with 1 point, Roerslev got 1 point, which admittedly is 4 points more than Regulon, who most other people went with. Cabaret went and scored 1 point, which is the same that Doughty got. Richarlison with 1 point, Kulusevski with 2 points, pretty much equaling the points tally of Madison and Son as well, which were the more popular picks there. Ward-Prowse and Lucas Paqueta rather going with Bowen and Kudus. That could have been really harmful, because Bowen almost had a goal and an assist, but that was taken away. But still, 1 point from Ward-Prowse, 2 points from Paqueta. 2 points from Barkley, didn't really perform either, rather than Morris, who was the more common pick from a Luton attacker. And then Johan Wissa up front rather than Tony. Again, they scored similarly. I think Tony got 1 point actually, and Wissa got 2 points, so actually outscored Tony a little bit there. And then Rodrigo Muniz as the one major star of the team with 26 points as the captain. Absolutely amazing haul with 2 goals against Spurs, which was not something that people expected to see. A lot of people backed Spurs in that game between Spurs and Fulham, but Fulham were actually the winners, and Rodrigo Muniz was the biggest beneficiary of all that. So 42 points in total, not the best score, but it still clears easily every single other score in the FPL Scope Mini League this week. Actually, a fun thing about the FPL Scope Mini League is the fact that my dad was actually close to being the manager of the week, and if it wasn't for me, he probably would have been, because I sort of advised him not to get Brun Larsen because he didn't look to get enough minutes for Burnley, and he scored a penalty and got 11 points. And yeah, just before I go into his team more, he actually has a sort of a rule for his team that he's only going to pick players starting with B. It came from fighting for the last, or trying to avoid the last place in one of our mini leagues against a guy who only has players starting with A. So he sort of made the B team instead, and he sort of did this with the free hit team as well, and he actually got 11 players to play in this game week. Slightly cheating by using Brentford and Burnley players because their teams start with B, but he basically picked only players starting with B, but somehow he left out both Burke and Brun Larsen, and he probably could have had both of those guys if it wasn't for me telling him that those 2 players wouldn't play that much. So he probably would have had the higher score just because players starting with B had pretty good game weeks this week, and players from teams starting with B as well, Burnley, got a few points as well. So interesting that sort of tactic would have been the winning tactic if you had just picked players like Brun Larsen and Burke, for example. But yeah, kind of a silly game week all in all, and kind of a silly manager of the week winner as well, I guess, with so many differential picks. But the one true differential pick that was actually kind of popular as well, Rodrigo Muniz, was the winning ticket with his 26 points in total as the captain. So yeah, nice score. Use your free hit chip though, and you've also used your wildcard chip and your triple captaincy chip, meaning you only have bench boost left. So it's going to be interesting to see how you're going to navigate the next few game weeks, but at least let me help you a little bit along the way. For the next game week, I always do this with the manager of the week. Usually I have to do this in the FPL Scope podcast episode we have, or video we have each week, but this week it sort of fell through. I had more things to sort out. I was kind of busy this week, so I didn't manage to do a podcast with Kevin, but we'll be back next week for sure. But manager of the week, 42 points. Let's go into next game week and see what you can do to fix your team or make your team pretty viable for the future game weeks as well. So seeing as this manager used the free hits this past game week, the team is completely different, obviously, from the points that they got from game week 29. And this team is actually a pretty good team. There are some stinkers here with Trossard, for example, who doesn't really play that much for Arsenal on the bench. Burke, the defense isn't the best, especially if Trippier's out. There are some issues here, but at the same time, already has Salah in place, already has Darwin Núñez in place, players that are really, really popular this week as well. Luis Diaz is also a nice third complementary player for them, seeing as Diogo Jota is out injured. Garnacho has a good match against Brentford at home. Solanke is a really good pick for the future, especially with double game week 34 coming up. And Gusto is also another one of those players that people are looking to get. And Ben White as well is the one that I wish I had in my team currently. I'm not going to be able to bring him in, I think, because my defense is pretty strong for game week 34 myself. But for anyone that has been able to get him and have him in their team already, I think he's a really, really good pick. So maybe not this week against Manchester City away, but for the future game weeks, I think he could be really good. Ederson in goal as well, or Areola, depending on who you want to start there. Not the best considering their opposition, but at the same time, it's a pretty good game week for this team as well, I think. But 2.2 million in the bank, one free transfer, and there's one clear standout transfer for me, and that is Barkley to Palmer. You could potentially do Luis Diaz to Son, for example, but I think Luis Diaz has pretty good upside this week, and I think Barkley does not have that much upside this week. And Palmer is a fantastic player that you need to have regardless of your situation, I think, whether you're free hitting in 34, not free hitting in 34, whatever is your case. I think Palmer is a really important player to have in general. And seeing as this manager doesn't have a free hit this upcoming, or for the rest of the way, because they used the free hitting game 29, Palmer is another fantastic pick who doubles twice for the rest of the season without blanking once as well. Plays every single game week and has a double in either 35 and 30 or 36, and also doubles in 37 as well. So Palmer is just an amazing player with great fixtures coming up. Great track record, has been one of the best players in the league. Full stop, even disregarding the really, really cheap price that he is as well. So Barkley to Palmer just seems like a no-brainer move for me for this team in general. And I think you can just keep Trippier and hope that he plays for this fixture against West Ham at home. I think that's a decent fixture for Trippier. I think Trippier is going to be a really nice player to have as well. I think a lot of people are neglecting him. Those of you guys who are doing wildcards and stuff, I think he's going to be a really nice player eventually because he is the most attacking and best attacking potential defender from Newcastle once he's back fully fit at least. So I think Trippier is actually a really good pick as well. So all in all, I really like this team, especially with Palmer in for Barkley. For future game weeks, you're pretty well set up as well with the likes of Darwin, Luis Diaz, Salah doubling up in game week 34. Solanke is doubling in 34 as well. Some pretty good players there. Maybe sort out your defense for 34 as well. That might be the priority going forward. And Ederson, maybe he's a season keeper, but I don't know. I prefer spreading the money around for the goalkeepers in general. So maybe you can pick up a double game week player rather than Ederson as well in that position. So a lot of things you can do with your team going forward, but I think for this week specifically, and also next week with the Liverpool players playing Sheffield United at home with both Jota and those guys out already, or still at that point, I think this team is actually pretty well set up for the next 2 game weeks. And seeing as you just got a pretty nice green arrow this past game week, I think you can push on and get into the top million potentially towards the end of the season, but it's going to be difficult without any chips apart from the bench boost. But it is doable. It is a possibility to navigate the season without free hits or wildcard at this point of the season as well, especially when your team is looking like this currently. So all in all, I think it's a pretty good team. The transfer is pretty much self-explanatory. Barkley to Palmer, and I think Salah captain is also the way to go, seeing as he'll be a bit of a differential as well. For what it's worth this week. I think not everyone will be able to get Salah, especially if you're not wildcarding and stuff. It might be difficult to get Salah in, and I think this team is going to be pretty good for this game week in general. So yeah, looking like a nice game week, and not the worst future considering your situation with both your rank and your chips remaining as well. So yeah, not the worst future for you guys. or for you. I'm expecting you're one person. But let's move on to the free hit draft for Game Week 30, what I think is the ideal team to have in Game Week 30 specifically. And it will be sort of a mixture between players that played in Game Week 29 that have really good fixtures now and players that are really popular on wildcards in Game Week 30. So I don't know if this is going to help you when it comes to whether you want to wildcard this game week or not. I think in most instances, wildcarding now is a pretty good idea. But if you have a pretty good team this week and you can survive another week, especially if you don't have that many Arsenal and Man City players, for example, who are going to be pretty popular players to bring in on a wildcard, I think you could easily survive one more week without wildcarding and then have more information next week. Or next game week, because it's going to be a midweek game week basically on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday. If you're in that position, I think you could potentially save your wildcard for Game Week 31. But this is the best team I think for Game Week 30. So if you have a bunch of these players, then obviously don't wildcard, because I think this is a really good team. I'm going to start in goal and move my way up the team basically. In goal I have Bernd Leno. As always, on the free hits, I think targeting Sheffield United is a good idea, even when it's a team like Fulham that have been sort of up and down. But I think Fulham are in a pretty good position lately. So I think they are actually big favorites to beat Sheffield United as well, especially coming off of that 3-0 win against Spurs. I think they are in a really good place currently, Fulham. So doubling up with Leno and Robinson, I think that's a good idea. Leno has been a great goalkeeper this whole season as well, getting a lot of saves. Even if it doesn't get a clean sheet, he can get saves. He can get penalty saves as well. He's shown that in the past that he has the capabilities of stopping penalties. So I think Leno's a great pick, and I think Robinson is a really good pick to complement him as well against Sheffield United away. Once again, Robinson had an assist last game. He's had a lot of assists this season actually, I think, especially lately. I think there have been a couple of game weeks where he's been surprising people with the assists and stuff. So can easily again get another assist and clean sheet sort of haul, like he did last time, getting 11 points in the Game Week 29 terrible game week. He was basically one of the lone stars in that game week, so I think he's a great pick. Gusto, I think, is a no-brainer this week. Burnley at home, another really, really easy fixture, another fixture that you should target. Maybe you could have a triple up on Chelsea here as well. I think Petrovic was pretty close to starting, but I just preferred Leno slightly just because of his save potential, basically. But you could also triple up with someone like Jackson, for example, for Chelsea. But I think there are just 3 really good strikers this week that I'm going to talk about later on in the video. But Gusto, for what it's worth, for now, with Reece James still out injured, Gusto is going to be an amazing pick, both in terms of clean sheet potential, but also in terms of assist potential, because Gusto has been really offensive and attacking minded this season, and he's been really good this season in general, especially going forward. So I think he's a great pick. Udogie as well, I think he's a fantastic pick, playing his Luton at home as a really good fixture, and that's a fixture you should target, seeing as I have triple Spurs once again, like I did last week on Game Week 29. But Udogie, super attacking. He is cheaper than Porro, even though that doesn't really matter when it comes to a free hit. I think he's better than Porro currently, seeing as Maddison is on set pieces now, with Porro taking off set pieces. I think Udogie is more offensively minded than Porro, and is a better pick currently, so he's in my free draft as well. Salah, I think, is the best captaincy option this week, and I've said this a couple times, and that's why he's going to be in the free draft as well. Pretty self-explanatory there. Brighton at home, really good fixture for him. Salah is just an amazing player. He's the greatest fantasy Premier League player of all time, so yeah, natural captaincy choice for me, even though we have some other really good captaincy choice or possibilities here as well with Son and Palmer. So I don't think there's too much between them, but I think Salah has the slight edge, especially seeing as Son just played 90 minutes over he played 180 minutes over 2 games for South Korea, and was out on international break pretty far and away from England. And I think Salah was able to not play for Egypt as well, just to get some rest basically. So he should be more fully fit to play. Palmer as well sort of had a slight issue for the first game for England and didn't play in the second game, so he's also sort of struggling a little bit. So I think Salah is just the safer pick in general. And when it comes to Salah having a good home fixture, I think it's just a really easy decision to go with Salah captaincy. Usually, I think it's going to be really tough to go against him, even with someone like Palmer, who's been amazing playing as Burnley at home. I still think I prefer Salah, but all those 3 guys are amazing, obviously, and they are really easy picks for the free hit draft. Salah, Son, Palmer, they should be pretty much in every team. When it comes to whether it's a free hit or if it's a normal team, you should try to fit them in. Maybe not for a -4 if you have to sell someone like Bowen, for example, who I have on my bench, because I think Bowen is an underrated asset this week, seeing as a lot of people are selling him this week. I don't think I would be too comfortable doing that. I'm more comfortable selling Foden, like I am looking likely to do myself, but But yeah, I think all those guys are really good. And then Madison as well, complementing Son. I think he's been amazing lately. He's on set pieces. He's a really good player when he's fit to play. He can get those monster hauls as well with assists and goals. He's super attacking. Spurs are super attacking. They will be really vengeful after losing to Fulham, and now they have Luton at home, which is potentially the second or third best fixture, or even the best fixture you can have as an FPL player. So yeah, I think doubling up makes a lot of sense. Richarlison is another alternative you could go with there as well, because he's most likely going to start up front now, and that's going to be a huge boost for him. But that's also going to be a huge boost for Madison as well. So I think Madison is a pretty safe pick there, and a really good player to have this game week in general. Up front, we have Watkins again. I think this is his swan song for a lot of people. People that are wildcarding now are probably swapping him out, and that might be a mistake. I'm more than happy to have Watkins this game week, as you can see, because he's in the free draft. So I think he's an amazing player. Wolves at home as well should be a really good game for them to be able to score a lot of goals, because the Wolves haven't been the best lately with Neto out and Hwang out and stuff like that. They're struggling a little bit, and Watkins could easily take advantage of that. Then we have Alexander Isak against West Ham. He always scores against West Ham, and I think he's going to do that once again. He's a really, really, really good striker. Callum Wilson is out. Isak is fit. He played 180 minutes for Sweden without any issues when it comes to injuries and stuff. And he's just an amazing player to watch, and an amazing player in general. So he's the player that I'm the most fearful of this game week, and that makes sense for him to be in the free hit draft, because I really wish I could have him this game week, but sadly I'm not going to force him in, and I can't really, and I have plans to get Darwin in next week, and I have Watkins already, who I think is really good. So yeah, but Isak is a fantastic pick and my favorite differential when it comes to the forward position. But I also really, really like Rodrigo Muniz, again off the back of 2 goals against Spurs last time around. He plays Sheffield United away this time, and he's just an amazing striker lately. He's been in red-hot form, and I think he's just a really good player, especially on the eye test. Like I mentioned him a couple of times, but I haven't really been sold on him as an FPL asset, just because I did fear Armando Broja taking his place, but he's not going to be a feature for Fulham this season. It seems like he was left out of the squad last time. Raul Jimenez is on his way back, but I still think Muniz is a fantastic player to own from now until the end of the season. I think he's the clear number 1 starter for Fulham now, and he's just a really, 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 really good pick for his price. And I think for this week, especially with Jimenez not completely back, fully fit, playing against Sheffield United away, he's a pretty easy pick for this free draft as well. Then backup goalkeeper Petrovic, I did mention him. You might want to start him over Leno. That's up to you whether you prefer Chelsea or Fulham defense, but I think Fulham have shown a better capability of keeping clean sheets than Chelsea, so I prefer Leno in that regard. But Petrovic is still a really good goalkeeper, especially if you're on a wildcard. I think he's a really sure starter there as well, and a really nice player to have for this game week. Jared Bowen against Newcastle away, like I said, I think that could be a really good fixture for him. Newcastle are really dreadful defensively, and Bowen has been really good away from home this season when West Ham can counter, and he can score on the counter as well. With Antonio up front now as well, I think that's going to benefit Bowen even more, so he's a really good pick. Conor Bradley as well was really close to making the starting squad here as well. Next week he's probably going to be. I almost picked him over Robinson as well, so you could go Robinson and Petrovic over Leno and Robinson. You could go Bradley and Petrovic over Leno and Robinson. If you don't trust Fulham, but I just think the Sheffield United fixture is just too good to pass up, so I want to triple up against Sheffield United anytime I have the chance, which is on a free hit every week basically. But Bradley, amazing pick this week, amazing pick next week, especially playing against that same Sheffield United side that I mentioned, so he's a really good player to have. I think I really made a mistake on the weekly wildcard draft not adding Bradley, because I think he's a fantastic player to have for the next 2 game weeks, and then when Trent Alexander-Arnold is back, he's most likely going to lose his place. Maybe Trent plays in midfield and Bradley continues to play on the right back position, but I think he's going to lose his place in game 32 onwards. But game 30 and 31, he's a really, really, really good punt. 2 home games for Liverpool against Brighton and Sheffield United. I think you should really take advantage of that and have him in your wildcard team if you're wildcarding this week. So Bradley is an amazing player to have. Diogo Dalot, similarly, I think he's a pretty good and underrated asset from Man United. Man United have kept a lot of clean sheets, surprisingly, this season. Dalot is a really attacking fullback as well, who can get points offensively. He has had a really nice combination on the right with Garnacho. That bond is growing stronger and stronger, and I think he's a really good player this week as well. So all in all, I think the free draft is, again, looking pretty good, but I often say this, but often the free draft actually gets outscored by my own team. So let's see if that happens this week, but I think there are some pretty huge advantages with some of these players this week. But for what it's worth, I don't think free hit is a good choice this week. I think either if you want a wildcard, if your team is looking bad this game week, it probably looks bad for the next few game weeks as well. So I think I probably would wildcard rather than free hit this week if you have that available. If you've used your free wildcard already and you just have a pretty terrible team and you want to hold over for a week, I guess, or something like that, maybe you want a free hit draft, but in general, I think this is more a guide towards the players that I think are really viable this week, rather than trying to force you into doing a free hit, because I don't think free hitting this week is a good idea. But at the same time, I thought it was a good idea to free hit Game Week 29, and that turned out to be bad. So maybe I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to the free hits, but these are the players that I prefer at least this week. And moving on, lastly to my plans for Game Week 30. I don't have a free hit. I used it in Game Week 29, obviously. I have my wildcard and my bench boost left, but I think my team is really, really, really well set up for dead ending into Game Week 34, and then wildcarding in 35, and then bench boosting in 37. That is going to be my tactic pretty much 100%, or 99% as of now. But I think my team is really good, or really well set up for this week. In goal, maybe not so much. Ariola or Dubravka playing against each other. Don't really know if any of those guys are any good. I think both will probably concede, and that's why I've gone with Ariola, just because I am a West Ham fan, and I hope that he keeps a clean sheet compared to Dubravka, and I hope he shuts out Isak as well. So that's going to be interesting, especially if Isak gets a penalty. That will be a really huge moment for me as a West Ham fan, Ariola owner, and non-Isak owner. I think that would be pretty nerve-wracking if that were to happen. But I'm just going to go with Ariola. He gets points in weird places and in weird matches. This could be one of them. I could see Newcastle getting a lot of chances and Ariola getting a lot of saves. So yeah, just going with him over Dubravka, just basically purely from what I want to happen, basically. But yeah, I think both those goalkeepers are not the best. You could probably upgrade one of them, but at the same time, goalkeeper transfers is not really something that I like to do. So I'm most likely going to do that in Game Week 32. But either way, Ariola not the best, but I think he's about the same as Dubravka, and I'm going to just prefer my West Ham player over a Newcastle player anyway. Aït-Nouri has been fantastic for me ever since I brought him in Game Week 26. I think attacking-wise, he can get some returns. Obviously, I think Watkins could score against him. That's why I had Watkins in the free hit team. But Aït-Nouri could easily get some attacking returns on his own. He scored and assisted in the cup game against Coventry, even though they went out and lost 3-2. He actually got a massive haul if that would have been an FPL game. And even in FPL in Premier League, he's been fantastic, getting an assist and getting a goal in Game Week 26 and Game Week 28, respectively. And almost getting a clean sheet in Game Week 28 as well, almost getting those 15 points, which would have been really nice. But he's just a really nice attacking player, so he's a really good player to own this week as well. Gusto, who I just mentioned on the free team, it's pretty self-explanatory. I think he's a really good player to have. Branthwaite, I have a decision here between Branthwaite and Sabarni, and probably to maximize my potential points earnings, I would probably start Sabarni over Branthwaite. I do just prefer Branthwaite though, and usually when I bench him, he gets a lot of points, so I might just hedge my bets there and have Branthwaite versus Solanke. But yeah, I do have Solanke, so it would make more sense for me to have Sabarni, seeing as I don't have any Everton attacker. But yeah, that's going to be a 50-50 decision for me, I think. Then in midfield, we have Foden, who I'm most likely going to transfer out for Salah. If that's looking likely, I can do that move just straight up without a -4 or anything like that. I definitely want Salah in my team, and I don't want to sell Son at this point either, because I do have him as my captain before I get Salah, because I think he is. Him and Palmer, it's pretty close between who I think is the second best captain's option behind Salah, but I think all those three guys are really good, and I really want to own all of them. So yeah, I already mentioned them in the free draft, so I'm not going to talk too much about them. Foden, I feel decently comfortable with selling, especially seeing as Man City will get a lot of matches now lately, or in the next few game weeks. So there will be some rotation. Foden will be benched at some point, probably, even though he plays pretty regularly now for Man City. But yeah, I feel pretty comfortable with selling Foden when he plays Arsenal this week. And Salah has a really good fixture and is my captaincy choice. So yeah, that's probably going to be my transfer. I could also just stand pat and keep Foden for another week and do a -4 to bring in Salah for Garnacho next week. That is the other possibility that I have that I can do. But I don't know. I just want Salah this week, and I want Salah as captain, and I've been pretty set on doing that tactic for a long while now, so I'm probably going to just do that. But yeah, Son, Palmer, and Salah, pretty much no-brainers in my team, I think. And then finally, Saka playing against Man City. Not the best fixture, obviously. Probably the worst fixture you can have, Man City away. But at the same time, I think Arsenal are more than capable of beating Man City in that game. I think Arsenal are still my favorites to win the title. I had them as the title favorites before the start of the season, and I really like the look of Arsenal and Saka, for that matter, lately as well, in the league especially. So I don't mind starting him, but I have a potential benching decision there between Saka and Garnacho, because usually when I bench Garnacho, he gets a lot of points, and when I start Garnacho, he gets not that many points. So I think I'm just going to go safe with Saka, who is the better player, I guess, but he has the worst fixture. So it's sort of up to you what you want to do in that fixture, basically. Up front, I have Watkins, like I mentioned in the free hit draft. I think he is a fantastic player this week. Haaland against Arsenal at home, I don't think that's a bad play either. I don't have any defensive players from Arsenal and and City starting at least. So I can hope for a goal fest there with like a 3-3, 4-4 type of game, or 4-3 Arsenal, because I want Arsenal to win, honestly. But I can hope for a high-scoring game there where Haaland and Saka had a lot of points, and maybe Foden gets some points as well after I sold him. That might happen, but still. I think both Saka and Haaland are pretty good players to have this week, seeing as they are their focal points or the main men in terms of getting points for their teams. I think they are decent players who could get both. Both of them could get attacking returns, and I'm not playing them against any other defensive players from those teams either. So pretty much like the look of both of them. And then Solanke against Everton at home. I think Solanke has really good fixtures coming up. He's going to be neglected by anyone that is wildcarding and free hitting in 34, because they can just free hit Solanke in 34. But I think before game of 34, that's a lot of fours in a row. He has a lot of good fixtures as well. So I really like this fixture against Everton. I think he has a decent chance of getting points there. Bournemouth against Everton is usually a pretty high-scoring game as well. So, I'm pretty happy to have Solanke starting up front for that game, basically. Then on the bench, the Dubravka I mentioned, Garnacho I mentioned, Sabarni I mentioned. The only guy I haven't really mentioned in terms of a benching decision is Gabriel. And playing against Messi away, I expect them to concede. So, I'm just going to have him on my bench. And I do quite like my defenders as well. Aït-Nouri, Gusto, and then maybe I would go with Gabriel and hope that, I don't know, something happens. Most people have Haaland, so I could just hope for him blanking and Gabriel getting points. But I think it's a pretty easy decision to bench Gabriel as well. So that's basically my team. I'm currently sitting at 13k overall, only 7 points behind the top 10k. That was 4 points behind the top 10k last week. So I'm a bit further behind now, but hopefully, again, I might be able to push into the top 10k. That would be really nice to get into that for the first time this season. 1,816 points so far. Really happy with that. Really happy with my team. Really happy to get Salah in most likely this week as well. I'm really happy with my chip strategy as well. So if you're wondering about my chip strategy and my future plans, I made a video about that previously as well, so you can check that out. I also made a video yesterday that was published. That was published yesterday as well, where I went through some of you guys' teams. You guys have commented or sent me comments on some of my videos last week. With your team IDs, because I asked you, and thank you for patiently waiting for that video to drop to come out. I did spend a little bit more time making that video, but it's a pretty long video to do because I had to do 4 different teams and go through their tactics and what I think they should do in each one of those game weeks and make all the slides and all that stuff. So it was a lot of hard work, but I did it for you guys for free. So hopefully you were grateful for getting that video. Hopefully a little bit of a dig there towards one of you guys, but either way, thank you for watching. No hard feelings either. I hope you enjoy your time. I hope you enjoy your weekend. It's Easter for me, so there's a lot of I have a lot of time off from work and stuff, my regular job, because I don't really do this as a job because I don't earn any money from it yet, at least. But I wish you a good Easter and just a good weekend in general if you're not celebrating Easter or whatever. And with that, I'm going to leave you with goodbye and thank you for watching as always. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.